Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. The ANVIL Liberator was revealed at this year's CitizenCon, so let us take a closer look at what this ship is. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and if you do enjoy my videos, please consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. So during CitizenCon's Ship Talk panel, members of the ship team spoke about a few ships that are in their various stages of development. One ship in particular was the ANVIL Liberator. Now this is a vehicle carrier or transporter capable of hauling 3 small ships on its open air landing pads, from light to medium fighters or even mining and freight craft, which will be able to take off at a moment's notice and be used to help fend off any attackers. And inside its interior vehicle bay, it can hold 2 ground vehicles such as tanks or mining vehicles. So some pretty decent carrying capabilities. Of course, we will need to test this a little more when it is in our hands, as I'm sure that we can play some vehicle Tetris and fit a few more inside. Now, the ANVIL Liberator is capable of long-range travel, and it says it's even designed with the same quantum drive and long-distance capabilities as the mil-spec carriers and pathfinders, but tailored for the civilian market. So I guess it speaks to a potential militarized version of this ANVIL Liberator for the UEE Navy. Plus, I certainly do expect other carriers later down the line. This is just the first one, but more on this later. Now, it is equipped with a size 3 quantum drive and built specifically for long-range deployment, so ideal for transporting ships and vehicles that are mostly only viable to travel short ranges, which is likely the reason CIG left it till now to introduce this ship, with the pyro system being around the corner. An invaluable ship, it says, for all manner of industrial, commercial or combat operations. Also inside, next to the vehicle bay, is a dedicated cargo hold with 400 SEU capacity, so you can haul traditional freight or carry supplies for the operations without sacrificing any of the vehicle space, which is not something that we often see in vehicles. Usually you have to choose between either cargo or a ground vehicle, sacrificing one or the other. Now, something else they mentioned in regards to the Liberator is that this ship is the entry-level spaceship for this career, being vehicle transportation. Now, we know of the Kraken, which I suppose is the closest to the Liberator. It is also twice the size and twice the price, so that is one other option. But as you can probably imagine, there will be other carriers in the future, and likely much bigger than the Liberator, maybe even bigger or around the same size as the Kraken. But considering this is the entry level, I'd be intrigued to see what else there is that they've got planned. So this ship allows players to load ships and vehicles on top and inside and move multiple vehicles in one go, giving us the ability to take a small fleet of ships and vehicles long distance without having to fly them individually, which would obviously take a much greater amount of time, requiring multiple stops for fuel, which is not something that will be all that possible in the systems like Pyro. Now, the Liberator isn't as such a combat ship, but it can protect itself with a turret. Sustained combat is not a good idea. It would be better to have the pilots of the ships you're transporting take to the skies and fight, rather than engage in a prolonged fight with a single turret. So let's talk about its projected specs. Of course, this is all subject to change, especially with it just being in concept, but it's 122 meters in length, 68 meters wide and about 24 meters high, so you're talking around the same size as a Karak almost. It has 3 external landing pads and 2 internal vehicle bays, cargo capacity of 400 SEU. Components wise, it says it has 1 size 3 shield and 1 size 3 quantum drive, but I have seen it mentioned that it has 2 size 3 shields, so I'm not sure which is right there. It looks to have about 1 size 2 radar, 1 size 2 CPU, 1 size 3 power plant, 2 size 3 coolers, 2 size 3 fuel intakes, and 2 size 3 fuel tanks. Again, all subject to change, so I wouldn't read too much into that just yet. It has an SEM speed, or a space combat maneuvering speed, of 115 meters a second, which is very slow, but it is a big ship, so it's kind of expected. Plus, it has a crew of 2, so a pilot and 1 other. So not a huge crew count, but similar to the Hercules C2, and if you are in need of assistance, it does allow for passengers who could man the ships on top, but a second crew member would be operating the turret or helping navigate and everything else. It does seem like it's quite a small crew count for the size of the ship, but again, things are all subject to change. Anyway, weaponry-wise, it has a manned turret with size 5 laser repeaters, along with dual automated point defense turrets to help take down incoming fighters or missiles. Plus, it has 4 missile launchers, so ultimately it is quite a capable ship and should really stand a good chance of repelling any attackers. Again, sustained combat would not be advisable, but it is by no means a pushover. And if you do have fighters on board and the pilots on board to fly them, then that would be a big incentive for pirates not to attack. So let me run through its list of features. Firstly, as we know, it's got the 3 open-air landing pads on top, which we have seen in the concept images, allows for quite a wide range of vehicles to be hauled. I think it's something like light or medium fighters, heavy fighters maybe not, due to the width. But you could have things like Sabres, Hornets, Gladius, that sort of thing. Its 2 interior vehicle bays can hold a Tonk, a ballista, or various smaller vehicles with the roll-on, roll-off method, just like the Hercules ships, so very useful. Having 400 SEU of cargo space will mean that you will be able to carry all the supplies that you could possibly need to get any operation established. More on the use cases later on. Its range is definitely not to be ignored, especially as the Pyro system is over 3 times the size of Stanton, and it does not offer anywhere near as many refueling opportunities. So having a ship like the Liberator that can ferry these smaller ships and vehicles for the various reasons will be an absolute asset. So let's take a look at its exterior aesthetic and features. Firstly, we did hear that it was inspired by the US military hovercraft. The landing pads are central, which should provide some additional protection from the sides. However, they are obviously exposed still and open to taking damage if attacked. Plus, it does have a docking collar on the port side. Now, design-wise, I love the ship's simplicity. It's very militaristic and minimalist, as we have come to expect from Anvil. So nothing overly complicated, but it just looks like it can do the job well. For its interior, they wanted to ensure that it flows well. So if you are in the garage, for example, you can easily get to the living quarters. Both the elevators run the full height of the ship, which is very useful, and there is even 1 elevator for the crew and 1 for the passengers. I do love how they have thought of this. We will talk more again about the ship's roles and use cases, but having it set up to keep the crew and passengers separate means that you can run this commercially, offering transportation to strangers without them having access to important areas of the ship. Now, a lot of its interior space is off to the sides. On the starboard side, you have the bridge with 2 seats, 1 for the pilot and another. Moving back, you have the crew quarters, which consists of a couple of bunks, lockers, suit lockers, and a bathroom, access to the landing pads on the top, and access to the manned turret and crew-only lift at the back. Do note that there is also component access that include the medium radar and scanner, medium battery, and your life support system. On the other side, the port side, it is on 2 levels. On the top floor are the passenger quarters for the pilots of the ships that you're transporting. Do note that there appears to be no beds for the passengers. However, there are 6 suit lockers, 4 storage lockers, a bathroom, and access to the lift and landing pads, plus a medium battery access too. So I'm assuming these batteries will feed each side. So if you lose 1 battery on one side, the crew can still do their job. So if, say, the passengers are trying to deal damage to the ship, if they turn off their own battery, it'll just be the battery to that side of the ship. Below the top floor, the lower level holds 16 jump seats, so great for transporting a team of 16 or troops for whatever reason. 8 suit lockers, another bathroom, the docking collar, access to the armory, and the passenger lift. Now, the main internal vehicle bay has room for extra storage running along the side, plus its 400 SEU cargo bay. So underneath the internal vehicle bay is where the majority of the ship's systems are housed. Either elevator will take you to the underbelly, which is where the engineering access is located. And as you can see, it has a very cool circular engineering room with a gravity generator in the middle and all the other components housed around the outside. I really love the design of this engineering section and can't wait to be working away on the ship while in transit. So quite an impressive setup, which will have a huge potential of uses. Speaking of which, I see the ship being a very useful option for multiple needs, from combat, exploration, large-scale mining operations, base building, and more. As we make our way around the verse and find areas of interest like large mining veins or locations we want to settle, for example, having the means to transport not only ships and vehicles for each role, but other players to aid in whatever it is that you're doing, which will be extremely useful. Talking about mining, for example, transporting a security element to ensure that the location is safe, or transporting multiple mining ships and vehicles, plus all the extra components, tools and crew that could help you get set up. If you're planning on building outposts and such, you might need a lot of vehicles and equipment to help get that settlement established, and having a ship like this will be pretty essential. Personally, I would have a Liberator to fly the security detail through to the location of interest first, with 2 or 3 fighters, a ballista and a tonk, just to help ensure that the location is safe for the rest of the industrial units to follow. That same Liberator can return, or another Liberator can then get loaded with base building equipment or mining vessels to begin work on the location. And do remember that your crew will need food, drink, meds, equipment like weapons and ammo or tools, or specialist suits, for example. So having that 400 SEU cargo hold that you can fill up with all of those items to sustain an operation long term. Or if there is already a settlement there in need of defense, imagine in the heat of a large scale ground battle, a Liberator showing up with 2 tonks, 3 fighters, plus however many fresh soldiers to come to the fight. Quite a morale boost. Now on a commercial basis, it could even be you and a friend offering transportation for other players and likely NPCs as well. You can charge people credits to move their vehicles and friends from A to B, chartering a course, for example, that others, if they require it, can pay to come on board, and you don't need to worry about them accessing areas of the ship that they shouldn't be in, as they are completely separate with everything they need. So the possibilities are pretty endless, and this is just the entry level ship for this role. Now, I think the main reason for bringing something like the Liberator to fruition is when it comes to quantum travel and long distance travel in general, the bigger the ship, the further and quicker it can travel. With Pyro on the horizon, the need for a ship like this grew. A fleet carrier has always been something that would be very beneficial, even in Stanton, but with Pyro's lack of locations to land and get resources, the Liberator will allow for smaller ships to make their way around the system without having to constantly find or run out of fuel, especially considering that the Pyro system is 17 AU in size, which is far bigger than Stanton's 5 AU. What we have in Stanton right now is not how Pyro will feel, and to get around, the larger ships will be far more beneficial and safer. If you are using a smaller ship to travel around in Pyro, the lack of refuel locations and scale of the system will most likely leave many unprepared pilots stranded and at the mercy of the local population, who may not be all that friendly. So personally, I think the Liberator is a great ship. It will be a huge help for players who don't want to spend all their time sat in a single seat ship or searching for fuel, getting from one location to another much quicker, and when commercial travel makes it in-game, owners will be able to make a lot of cash. For an org, I feel the Liberator will be quite essential for running various operations, helping to get organised and doing so safely. Price-wise, we will speak of soon, but it is too expensive for me to justify buying one, but working towards an org Liberator or 2 is a nice goal, while likely borrowing one from the org members who did buy one. I think eventually, having a dedicated Liberator for the various divisions in my org will be a great plan, so allowing each division to travel on scale where they need to. I really love the design and the compact nature of the Liberator, and compared to the Drake Kraken, which I suppose is currently the only similar ship, I do feel it will be a lot more useful, considering that the Kraken is twice the size and its landing pads are a lot more exposed, so it will require a larger amount of logistical planning. So talking about its price, its war bond sale is $600 US, which is around 480 quid, or $680 US and 550 quid for non-war bond. As it is its first sale, it does come with LTI, and you do get the industrial hangar. So quite a pricey ship if you are buying it with real life currency, but of course it will eventually be purchasable in-game for in-game credits, but don't expect it to be cheap. So that is the first look at the ANVIL Liberator, a great new addition to the whole ship lineup, and one that I think many will benefit from, myself included. Of course, we will continue to follow along with its development once it enters the pipeline to actually get built, and as it does continue to get built, hopefully we will find out what ANVIL's own Atlas platform chassis is for ground vehicles. I didn't really mention it much because we just have no idea. It was more of a tease than anything. Personally, if I was to guess, it would just be the chassis that the ballista is on, as we have seen one of the other ships we can vote on being the sort of transporter or APC vehicle, which uses the exact same chassis as the ballista. So that would be my guess. But I am happy that CIG have concepted this ship. It is a ship that is on my list of needs in the verse, and overall, I don't think there is anything I don't like about the Anvil Liberator. Do let me know your thoughts on whether it is a ship that you want or you already own. But with that said, if you do enjoy my videos, please consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. And if you would like to talk more about Star Citizen, the Anvil Liberator, or anything Star Citizen at all, you are all more than welcome over at twitch.tv/supermacbrothersryan. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you would like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, thank you to my patrons and channel members. You guys are phenomenal. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.